For many people, a Porsche 911 is a Porsche 911 is a Porsche 911. They all look similar, so they're all the same. And while that may be true for some 911s, it certainly isn't the case for this one. This is a brand new Porsche 911 GT3 RS, and it's been loaned to me by a viewer here in sunny South Florida so that I can show you why this is quite possibly the craziest 911 of all time. There are two components to this. First, I'm going to show you around the GT3 RS, and I'm going to show you all the differences that prove that this is not just some normal 911. Then I'm going to take it out on the road, and I'm going to show you exactly how non-normal this thing really is when you're driving it. Of course, for more of my thoughts on the GT3 RS and the GT3 RS driving experience, click the link below to check out my column on autotrader.com/oversteer. And now, let's start with the tour. First, an overview. If the 911 GT3 is the ultimate racetrack-focused 911, then the GT3 RS is the ultimate track 911, losing 22 pounds and adding 25 horsepower over the GT3 for a total of 500 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of 3.1 seconds. But it still doesn't lose its Porsche-ness. The base price of the GT3 RS is $176,000, and this one is loaded with little touches that drove the sticker price up to $220,000. Then it got additional stitching from a company called Exclusive Option in California. Now, the first thing you notice with this car is just how many things are completely different from a regular everyday 911. It has the same shape, but that's about where the similarities end. Now, one of the most distinctive things about this car is its huge rear wing, and it is in fact huge. Just look at it, it's ridiculous. Maybe more ridiculous is the fact that when this car is moving, the rear wing can generate over 500 pounds of downforce. That's more than 2 adult men sitting on top of it. Also ridiculous is the fact that it's so big, I can do this. Here's another thing I like about this car. There's no heated seats, there's no ventilated seats, but there is a pit speed button in the center console. Push it and you can set a maximum speed so that when you're in the pit lane on a racetrack, you won't accidentally go over the speed limit. Another thing I love about this car is the PDK gear selector goes the right way. Allow me to explain what I mean. The normal Porsche, you push up to upshift, which seems natural, but it just isn't. For some reason, it feels more normal to pull down to upshift and push up when you're trying to downshift and get more power out of the thing. And that is exactly how it is only in the GT3 and GT3 RS. There's also a little fire extinguisher under the passenger seat in case you have an incident on the racetrack. You won't find that in a normal 911. Now, you'll notice a couple of distinctive things right here. One of them is the fact that this car doesn't have regular lug nuts like your normal everyday Camry. This thing has center lock wheels like a race car, and it requires a special tool to get them off. More importantly, this car has carbon ceramic brakes. That's a $10,000 option over normal brakes. They're designed to save weight and reduce brake fade at the racetrack. Up front, that's a 16.1-inch brake rotor. I've owned cars with wheels smaller than 16.1 inches. Another cool thing is this fuzzy Alcantara steering wheel, which helps with your grip when you're at the racetrack. And they've even included a little yellow strip at the top so that when you're going hand over hand through a tight corner on the racetrack and you may not be paying close attention to the steering wheel, you always know which part is up. Also unique to this car are the air extractors in the front fenders. They help provide additional downforce. Between them, the wing, and a couple other things, this car makes 750 pounds of downforce at 125 miles an hour. In other words, when it's going that speed, it has 750 pounds pushing it down and keeping it on the ground. That'd be like if you were driving around with an adult male grizzly bear sitting on the top of the car. You also notice the incredible lengths Porsche went to in order to save weight. They didn't just pull a couple pounds out of it here and a couple pounds there and call it a day. They really tried to get as much weight out of this car as humanly possible. For instance, there are these lightweight racing sport seats that certainly aren't designed for comfort. And speaking of the seats, they've completely removed the car's back seats. The door handles are replaced by these little nylon hoops. The badges aren't actually badges. Those would weigh too much. Instead, they're decals, both in front and in back. Folks, when you're making your badges out of decals, that's when you know you're really serious about saving weight. The GT3 RS is also loaded with carbon fiber. The seats are carbon fiber. The wing is carbon fiber. The front fenders are carbon fiber. The front trunk lid is carbon fiber. And the rear hood is carbon fiber, as is some of the engine compartment. The other thing you'll notice about this car is that it really isn't a luxury car by any measure. In fact, most of the luxury features that make it so easy to just sit in your 911 and cruise around have been completely removed from this thing. For instance, see this blank switch? That would be the button for the heated and ventilated seats, except not in the GT3 RS. And speaking of the seats, there's no power adjustment. You move those manually. The steering wheel doesn't have all sorts of cool high-tech controls. It just has holes. You can stick your fingers through them. There's no sunroof on this car, and there are a lot of blank switches, not a common sight on a six-figure car. Okay, so you're probably starting to understand this isn't a normal, regular, everyday 911. This is something special. But if you really want to see how different it is from a regular 911, or a regular car, really, you gotta take it out on the road.
It's just instantaneous. I'm driving this car 10 seconds and I instantly feel already like I'm home. I've spent a lot of time in 911s and they just feel so good. They don't feel intimidating. I know this one is crazy. It's a $220,000 car. It's the most insane, most ridiculous looking one. And yet I just feel like I'm driving like just a 996, a 997, any 911. I feel like you feel just as comfortable and it's just as easy to drive as any other one. I love that. I love that so much. It doesn't feel like any old 911 there though. You put your foot to the floor. Wow. Alright, so I'm going around a nice little curve here on the highway. Oh, it's so planted, it's so stable. Right here, right here. Down there. It's just so stable. I will say, one interesting thing is, I always feel intimidated putting my foot to the floor in a Lamborghini and some of these other crazy cars I'm driving. Not this. Instantly. I've been driving this car for 2 minutes. Instantly, I'm like, yeah, I'll put my foot to the floor. I know it can take it. It feels like you're putting on Iron Man's suit when you get in this car. It's like you wear this car, and that just feels so true. You just feel like you are one with this car more than virtually any other car I drive. 911s feel like that, and this one especially feels like that because the RS is just so in tune with everything, every little tiny move of the steering wheel. This car feels like I am a professional driver, even though I'm really just an idiot wearing shorts. So this car has a custom tube exhaust from Champion Motorsport over here, and it is quite impressive. It really makes this car stand out. Now, of course, you know, a stick shift would be nice. I openly admit that. PDK is smarter than you, it's better than you. I like them both. But if I was to have an automatic transmission, it would be this one. You know, I hate evangelizing Porsche because everybody, oh, Porsche's the best, Porsche's the best. But there's a reason people say this. When I was a kid, I grew up, I didn't get the 911. I was like, oh, they all look the same, they're stupid. And then I drove them, and I started to understand exactly why people love them so much.
So there you have it, the most exciting 911 currently on sale, possibly the most thrilling 911 of all time, the new GT3 RS. If you're one of those people who says that 911s are boring and they all look the same and there are too many variants, well, maybe now you'll understand that some 911s are a little bit more special than others. But wait, I'm not quite done yet. I've had a couple days to think about my GT3 RS driving experience, and I've decided to give this a little different conclusion. You see, the GT3 RS isn't the most exotic car I've ever driven. It doesn't come from the most exotic car brand, and it certainly isn't the fastest car I've ever driven. But it is the car that I would say I feel confident driving the fastest. And when you think about it, that's probably more important than all-out ultimate speed numbers that you don't feel confident actually reaching. You know, people are constantly asking me, you've driven a lot of cars, what's your favorite? What's the best car to drive? And I have driven a lot of cars to do these videos. So there's no simple answer to that question. Usually I rattle off a list of 3 or 4 different possibilities. From this moment forward, the GT3 RS will definitely have a spot on that list.